So I wrote an article the other day, or updated an older article that I'd written some time ago about, do you need a coach? What prompted me was just a line I read somewhere online about a CrossFitter and the benefits of the coach to them. They were talking about all the benefits they believe they get from a coach, and from their perspective how they don't need to think about training. And that just made me think about many years ago when I was coaching a lot of guys back in Australia on track. And one of the things that one of the athletes said to me was the thing that he loved about having a coach, and this was a guy that went to the Olympics, super smart guy, he's a physical education teacher, taught me a lot about the science around running, and I was probably more proficient in the art and just working things out. And there was basically, he knew everything that I knew. After 10 years of working with one athlete, I'd passed off so much information. The only things he probably didn't know was, when he was writing his own programs or choosing a particular session to do, was whether it was, you just need that sounding board every now and then, and he still does. Every now and then he calls me up from Australia and says, hey, this is a session I'm doing, what do you think? And, it's just sometimes nice to bounce something off somebody. But back then, he was working really hard, he was training really hard. We had a multi-session training day between 5 and 7 days a week, and he just loved the thought that he could actually turn up to training and not think about it. And this CrossFitter wrote the same thing the other day, or they answered the question the same way, saying they love the fact they don't have to think about training. They can just turn up and they've got their program sent from their coach and they just follow along. And I think it's imperative that we understand the role of a coach sometimes, and it is to guide, but I think most importantly it just does take a lot of pressure off the athlete trying to work things out. We had another athlete that was going to join our squad. He was an extremely talented runner. I think he had the fastest or second fastest 200 metre time in Australia one year, and he'd had a couple of years off and he got lost in the system, and the Australian track and field system, to be honest with you, isn't that great in terms of keeping up to date with athletes and following up where they're at. This particular young guy came over to the US, trained under John Smith, and that was probably too advanced for him, to be honest. He probably got dragged along and learned a lot, but he came back to Australia thinking he can now coach himself. And he wasn't the most disciplined athlete. And one of the interesting things was, he chose to do the shorter sessions all the time because he didn't actually like the really hard grind stuff to become a really good 200 metre runner. That was a classic of a young guy that could have really benefited from having a good coach and someone to guide him through those particular sessions. He definitely did get lost in the system, and trying to coach himself, he just wouldn't put in the effort, to do those really hard sessions, where he would have benefited from being with a squad, having a coach to guide him and create that discipline, that program around it for him. Anyway, it brings me back to coaching as a whole. I used to coach my entire life until I went off and started to coach myself. But again, when I was working really hard just in a corporate world, it was just so nice to turn up to training and not have to think about anything. My coach was there, he had the program mapped out, and away I went. So I think we all need to think about whether the coach has real benefit to us or not, taking the expense of it out, obviously. The coach also has a lot of responsibility around whether they're doing the right thing by the athlete. It's one of the things that I saw for many years at the track that I ran at and coached at, was the coaches themselves wouldn't collaborate and work on particular, some of the coaches had better techniques in, let's say, speed or box starts or a certain part of the track and field, and other coaches were more disciplined or better in other areas. They would never actually help each other. There was clearly some athletes that lacked that aspect of their particular running, and one coach had it, but one coach would never go and approach the other guy and say, hey, my guy lacks this top end speed, can you help him out here? They would just never do it. It was always about keeping all this stuff to yourself. It's like, if I speak about this, I'm going to lose my athlete or give up my secrets or something to that effect. And I think it also comes down to how comfortable you are as a coach. And one of the things that we had to do when I was coaching the Olympic athlete is that he needed to do some testing in the Olympic lifts, and although I had quite a substantial strength and conditioning background, and his strength was extremely good, and we convert that to the track, the whole specificity of training in the gym and then trying to make that convert the track. But some of the testing you had to do just to actually make the team was around Olympic lifts, and I just didn't have the skill in that area. So rather than actually try and learn it, reinvent the wheel, I started making phone calls to try and find a good strength and conditioning coach in the local area. As it turns out, 20 minutes away from us, our running track, was the Australian women's Olympic coach, weightlifting Olympic coach. I reached out to him, and I can't recall the gentleman's name now, and he was so happy that I actually called him up about helping a track athlete and a potential Olympic athlete, that we went off to his particular gym, and the athlete worked with him 2 or 3 days a week and became a relatively good lifter. He was never going to be a great lifter. He was starting at at an older age. So I think that's really important as a coach as well, that you're prepared to actually reach out to other coaches to learn a new discipline, as opposed to trying to work it out and the disadvantage of the athlete because you're selfish. Most people watching these videos will just be in the general health and fitness space, and that's what I'm trying to actually bring into my videos. And it takes me back to the personal trainers as well. Some of these personal trainers that won't reach out to other coaches outside of that space to actually learn about, e.g. I've seen personal trainers down the local oval before sprinting with their clients, and they've just don't have any idea about how to teach that particular skill. Reach out to a coach, reach out to a sprint coach. I'm sure whether they'll turn up to your session and help you out, which I would have, or I would have actually happily just jumped on the phone call and actually, helped that particular person out. Or if they had to come to my track, the coach himself, the personal trainer, and actually gone through some of our sessions. So, don't be scared to reach out to other people to try and get more information and actually help yourself and ultimately helping your client out. The other one thing that used to frustrate me is personal trainers, trying to be too over complex in their role as a coach, and they are a coach. We call them personal trainers, but they're a coach. And I think they were just trying to overcomplicate some of the situations so much, and I think they were scared of losing their clients. So they would make up these really complex workout routines, which technically the client either couldn't do or was so hard they'll never come back. And one of the things I referred to, and I wrote an article about this years ago, and giving a unconditioned client or athlete a walking lunge with a rotating twist holding a plate out in front, whether it be a 10, 20 or whatever size the plate is. But I was watching somebody one night. Not only was this particular person out of shape and hadn't been to the gym for some time, good on them for wanting to come back in the gym and getting a personal trainer straight away. Completely encouraged that, and I thought it was a great thing. This particular person was, somewhat out of shape, and the personal trainer's got them walking across the gym, doing these walking lunges with a rotation, and they couldn't do a walking lunge for a start. And never mind trying to do a walking lunge with a rotation, they could probably only just do a step forward, step back style lunge or reverse lunge. Even that, most people don't know how difficult that exercise is, to stabilise your pelvis and so forth. So I would just, ask everyone out there, if you're in the coaching space and there's a particular area that you don't know or don't understand, to reach out to other coaches. It's a great community out there, and there's plenty of people out there with so much knowledge, and they're more than happy to pass it off. I just think that we don't do enough of it, and I would definitely help out anyone that reached out to me. And I'm about to actually start interviewing coaches, what I really want to do, and to, one, for my own personal benefit, get more information about the people I help, and secondly, just to continue to learn and just to see what different approaches they. But everyone's got a slightly different view or different take on a situation. So anyway, I hope you're having a great day, and I hope to put out some more videos.